Hey everyone, Jay here. Just wanted to quickly mention that for the month of May, you can get 50% off any of my on-demand courses or videos. That includes my Yoga Modules Continuing Education course, my online workshop, Gentle is the New Advanced, and my self-practice video series. For the month of May, you can get 50% off by using promo code MAY50 at checkout. That's promo code MAY50 for 50% off any on-demand videos. To take advantage of it, go to jbrownyoga.com. All right, here we are. This is Jay Brown Yoga Talks podcast. My name is Jay Brown. If this is your first time listening today, let me welcome you. And everyone else, what's up? You know, sometimes things time out just right. Isn't it lovely when that happens? Because just now, I've been sitting here up in the attic for, 45 minutes at least, because my neighbors are having this party and they were being so loud that I felt like it was going to be heard in the background while I was recording. And I had time, so I thought, I'll just wait and we'll see how long the party's going to go for. I mean, how long can they laugh that loud? But I wasn't mad because it was lovely. It was lovely to hear my neighbors so full of joy. And I'm recording this on Mother's Day, so clearly that was the occasion that people were gathering around a mother and celebrating her and laughing and just having wonderful time, and I couldn't be mad at it. It felt more important than me recording this. But with that sentiment, at some point, I felt like, oh my God, I'm looking at the clock. I got to get this going. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I'll make a thing of it. I was going to come on here and say, can you hear them in the background? But as soon as I hit record, it's like it stopped. Like, I guess they went inside or maybe something, but it timed out perfect. And now it's perfectly quiet. It makes me feel like sometimes when I'm interacting with the moment in a certain way, things seem to fall in place with a certain harmony that fills me with a good feeling that I enjoy. And I wonder, whoever's listening to this right now, if you're finding those moments, I guess is what I'm driving at. I hope so. I hope you're doing okay. And if you've been listening to the show recently, I've been really doing a little bit of soul searching and wanting to hear from other people about what they're seeing out there in the yoga industry. And I will say that I have been commenting that I observe there's a contraction, and I do think that's true. But what I'm also learning is that it's not in all sectors. That not everyone's seeing a reduction in attendance. Like some people, the attendance came back. And it depends on what you're teaching and sometimes how the center is getting people in. It's a longer conversation, and we're going to discuss it some today. And actually, on the other side of today's conversation, I'm going to share a little bit about some new thoughts I've been having around the center that I opened, because I feel like I have been setting myself up in a certain way that is not conducive. And really, you can frame the situation with a yoga center in a lot of different ways. You can frame it from like a business standpoint, like a pure business standpoint, or from a yoga standpoint. And there's, some crossover, but there's places at which they diverge, and I'm being a little vague, but I will be more specific. If you want to stick around to the other side of today's conversation, I will make some further comments about this. But on some level, I find it encouraging because it makes me feel like there are possibilities that I wasn't fully being open to. And I would like to be more open to the range of full possibility. And part of what contributed to this perspective that I am currently enjoying is today's conversation with Roberta McGinley. Roberta and I know each other from earlier days. You'll hear we go over it. I taught a workshop at a yoga center that she had back in 2018, and she's a listener of this show, and I consider her an old friend, and she reached out after she had heard me say some things on the podcast, and I thought it would be fun to connect with her and find out what she's seeing, and I'm so glad I did. And I'm very happy to be sharing that with you today. Real quick before we get to it, let me mention that if you enjoy this show and you would like to help support it, then I want to encourage you to become a podcast premium subscriber. For as little as $5 a month, you can get access to the full-length archives and help us keep this independent media thing that I'm doing alive, because I'm not using ads, and it is through listener support that I am able to keep this going. And the way that you would help contribute to that effort is to become a podcast premium subscriber. There are also other ways that we could connect. If you would like to do some practice with me or be involved in a weekly discussion group or a teacher training, I've got lots of other stuff on offer as well. You can find everything podcast premium and the rest at jbrownyoga.com. Okay, y'all, I think that we will just leave it there. I will touch base with you on the other side, but let's go ahead and get to it. Let's listen to this conversation that I had with Roberta McGinley. Hello?
Hi, Jay. Can you hear me?
Hi, I can. Hello, Roberta.
Jay, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
I'm good. Thank you.
Well, I think you know the deal. I'm recording and we just begun, okay?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Well, Roberta, I was just looking back through old emails because I am a bit of an email hoarder. And I found the initial emails that we exchanged back in 2017 and when I came and did a workshop at your place in 2018, I believe it was.
Yeah. I couldn't remember the date.
It was April 2018 that the workshop happened. So it's almost exactly, oh my gosh, what will that be, 7 years ago? Yeah.
Wow. That's great. I'm glad that you have that date because I was trying to remember and I was struggling between, whatever dates. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to talk to you again.
Well, I mean, for me, it's nice to talk to you because I feel like we knew each other from the before times,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I saw some posts of yours on Instagram or whatever. I see you're out there teaching classes, the local place again. So
I am.
I'm glad to catch up with you and maybe I don't know, I'm asking myself some hard questions these days. So maybe you can help me with some hard questions. And I don't know if they apply to you or not. We'll see. Before we get to the hard questions, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think we have a lot in common, which is why I reached out again. I've been listening to you since you started these podcasts. One of the girls that worked with me at my studio, she's like, gotta listen to this guy, Jay Brown. And so it's sort of how I ended up asking you or inviting you to come to Tadasana in Balance, which was years later at a different location, because you were doing I think it was Gentle is the New Advanced, is what you were doing.
Yep.
And Yeah. And so I listen faithfully every Monday. I so enjoy all of your podcasts and the people that you have on. And I was so touched, I have to say, last year I was listening to you as you were trying to gather up enough funds to open up, and how you were very, very emotional. And I was like crying because I
Mm.
so felt the passion that you had, and how you really wanted to open up a space again for the community, and be and guide people on this beautiful journey of yoga. And so, yeah, and so I had a studio when you had a studio back in 2008, and all the things before Mind Body. I think I listen, I'm like, oh yes, that was me too, and all the struggles through all the things. So I just thought,
All right, well, look, let's go back there a little bit before we face what we're looking at now. I do want to spend a little time going back there. When you reached out to me in 2017, how long had you had Tadasana in Balance in Fishkill, New York, right?
Yeah, it was Fishkill.
How long had you had that place?
So at the time, I think I was in that location for maybe 2 years. So maybe 2 years in that location.
So you had another location before that?
Yeah, there's a story behind that.
What's the story? Because the reason I'm asking is because it's just, I want to establish that there was a lot of differences about opening a yoga center in 2003 or 2007.
Yeah.
Than in 2025.
Of course. Yes, there were.
Because there's a lot of differences.
Yeah. So in 2008, I opened up Tadasana Yoga Studio, and that was in Wappingers Falls, New York. It was a hot studio. And at the time, well, because I practice all styles of yoga. Actually, Ashtanga was my first practice, like in the early 2000s, and then I moved over to Bikram. But I do all the things, and I was up here in the Hudson Valley, and there were no hot yoga studios around. There was only one studio across the river in New Paltz, an Ashtanga studio, and there was nothing across the river. So, and I would have to travel to either Danbury, Connecticut, or go down to New Jersey to practice hot. And I had an opportunity to open up the space, and I did. And it was a small space with a rug and space heaters. And I sat there and put a sign up. I invested, a bunch of money to put the mirrors up and get the signage out. And Mind Body, well, actually, Mind Body wasn't there yet, but and then people just started coming, and it just caught on. And then I had the index cards just like you.
Yes, and let us pause there for just a moment, because I know the area quite well. There was a moment in my life where I considered moving to the Hudson Valley. In fact, I rented an apartment in High Falls, New York, which is not too far from New Paltz. And I taught classes for a few months while I was there at a space in the center of Rhinebeck, New York.
Oh, yeah.
So I certainly kind of knew that area. I really liked there, and I considered moving there. But at the time, I was also had an apartment in Brooklyn, and I felt like there wasn't enough population density to open a place there to make it work. So I stayed in the city. I mean, I don't know if that was true or not, but...
Yeah.
Let me also mention about the hot classes. So when you say that, were you teaching like a straight Bikram kind of class, or was just like vinyasa flows in the hot room?
Yeah, no. So my teacher I went and did Jimmy Barkin's first certifications. So Jimmy was Bikram's right hand guy and did a lot of his trainings, and then they separated. And so in 2001, Jimmy was doing a month-long certification, 200-hour in Fort Lauderdale. So had the opportunity to go, and I went. And then I did his level 2, which was sort of a hot vinyasa. But so to answer the question, I was teaching hot 26 Barkin style, which I still do. And I'm also I'm certified with Baron Baptiste I taught that a warm Baptiste flow. And then I had other girls coming in. Somebody taught Ashtanga, somebody else taught like Iyengar. And so we sort of grew, and the population called for different teachers and different styles. So it wasn't all hot.
Got you. But were some classes heated and some classes, like you said, so they weren't all hot. I get it.
Yeah. Not of them were all hot. Not all of them, no.
Got you. And all right, so when you opened your first place, which wasn't the place that I went to in Fishkill,
right?
There weren't any other hot yoga places or places that had hot classes?
No, not at that time. So I opened up, so I started at Gold's Gym, and then I just had this opportunity to open up. I was like, you know what? I think that people are going to love this style of yoga. And again, like I said at the time, as you know, there were not a lot of hot yoga studios up here at all.
I want to reflect on the moment too, because back then, and you sort of said this, like there wasn't really like a marketing plan. You just like bought a sign and hung it up.
Yeah,
like that was the marketing. It was like a thing on the window and then like an A-frame sign or whatever.
Yeah, I had I actually spent a lot of money on like this a signage, that because I was right on Route 9, which is the main thoroughfare, so you probably know it goes right up to Rhinebeck.
See.
And so I invested, a couple, $15,000 or so just to get it up and running. And then, I just sat there and waited and was by myself. And
people showed up. And as you said, people showed up.
Yeah. And then Poughkeepsie Journal did like they had that little magazine, which was Healthy Living or something. And they had me on the front cover with with my students and like a picture of a space heater. And so they did a thing on me, and that, I don't even know what year that was, probably maybe 2010. And then just people started coming, and then I had a small space, like I said, and then it got too busy. People were out in the hallway practicing. And I could fit 20 people in the room at the time. And then I had to move across the hall. There was a larger space, which then I could fit about 35 people. And then that got busy. But then what happened was somebody else came along and opened up a better studio, which had to happen anyway, right? They opened.
What do you mean? Like they built out a space and made it way nicer? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, wood floors. Heaters,
infrared heat or whatever, right?
Yeah. And they opened up in Fishkill, and so people loved me, but how do you not want? And they had a shower.
Yeah. That was a dividing line. I remember. Do you have a shower, especially if it was hot? If you didn't have a shower, because sometimes people had to go to work from class or whatever, and
and so that's sort of eventually, like, really, I was struggling really hard with that. And then I was listening to your podcast last night with the woman that you had on, and how their studio that she used to go to had to move around a couple of times, which is what I did. I had to move around. I went to a beautiful space that wasn't a hot studio, but was really, really sweet with some fireplaces in it, some wood plank floor, and I put space heaters, and that worked for a little bit of time.
Now, do you remember, like, did we have email lists by that time? Probably, yeah, email lists, or just like you put out another sign?
No, I collected emails. So what I did, I got on my index cards, I got everybody's name and email.
Maybe people sign the thing where they put their name and stuff. And
and then I would follow up personally with every person and, say, thanks for coming and any feedback or, I followed up with everybody. So I did create an email list.
Right.
So that I just was able to communicate with people that way.
Right. That's what allowed you
and
to
then they just followed me around.
Yeah, that's what allowed you to move from like one location to another, and they didn't mind because they could like probably had that class in their schedule already, and so they didn't mind if the place wasn't too
Yeah.
far away, right? It wasn't a problem.
It wasn't far away, yeah. So then people were going to the other studio because it was a hotter studio, and it was a better, newer studio. Anyway, so how I got to Tadasana in Balance was I moved over to that place and partnered up with the person who owned that studio, and so that's where you came.
Oh, I see. So that was
workshop.
Someone else. You had a partner at that place.
Yeah.
See, a lot of times that happened where people would combine forces. Do you mind me asking it if it's a sore subject? We don't have to stick there, but how was that like collaborating and having partners and yoga centers? In my experience, often didn't always go very well.
So the person that was the person that there were two people that opened up was called Life in Balance, and the person that was the teacher left that space, and the other partner was sort of the administrative person. She did not teach at all. So then they separated, they parted ways, and they needed a person to come in who has a community to teach in the hot space, and that was me. And it worked out for both of us because I needed a place to bring my community that was a legitimate hot space, and she needed me. So that's how that worked, and it worked for a couple of years there.
I see, and she did like an administrative side of stuff, and you did all the teaching.
She did, yeah. She did all the like. I'm not good at that. That's not my thing. So much like I just want to teach, and I would like give the classes away if I could, or I was like, just come if you can't afford it, just come because I want you to be able to practice yoga.
Yeah.
So
now, at the time, how dependent on the income from your yoga teaching were you?
Well, good question. Before I moved back in with that space that we're talking about currently, I really was not making a lot of money. I barely paid myself. I paid if somebody I was able to get some money if somebody paid for a year, membership or something like that. But I have a husband who made money, and I did the best that I could. So then when I moved over there, I was actually getting paid. So that was not a whole lot, not as much as I should have, but at least I was getting
but there
paid.
I guess my point is there was a time when I feel like I did make a living from a center just off of the classes, not with teacher training.
Yeah, I hadn't done any teacher training at that point yet. But I did. I made money here and there, of course. I would never have been able to sustain that. It's like I said, it was 2008, then to like 2018, I think I went entirely in owning a studio.
Right. Well, that's interesting. So you had the place in 2018. I was there. That was a kind of like a calm in a way, not really even a calm, but like I don't know. I look back at that time, and I guess some part of me felt like, oh, things were changing, but then everything sort of fell apart soon thereafter,
Yeah, it did. I would say that. I actually left that space. There was just a thing that happened, and I just said, I need to move away from this for a minute.
Were you in this space when the pandemic hit, or did you leave before the pandemic?
So no, I was somewhere else after that. So I left the business. I went up to Omega. I'm a baker. And so I
that's awesome. Yeah. We'll talk about baking later. I want to talk to you about baking. Definitely.
Yeah. So I just left, and I did a season up at Omega, baking. And that was cool and hard.
And let's share with people, like, I know what you mean when you said I did a season, like, but people listening might not know. One, that Omega Institute is one of the sort of like two big kind of like holistic learning retreat kind of places in the Hudson Valley.
Yes.
And I used to call it like adult spiritual summer camp.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And there was also, because I did like core faculty yoga instructor there for like a couple years.
Very cool.
And so there was sort of two worlds at that place, or both in Kripalu too, it's the same, but maybe more at Omega, that there was sort of like the world of the participants who would come for like 5 days or 3 days over the weekend for the program that they signed up for and then leave.
Yes.
And then there was the world of like the staff and like people who were there, like you, who were there for the season, where you would basically like work in the kitchen or do other things, whatever your karma yoga was. And then in exchange, you got to stay there and eat and got to like take classes and stuff.
Yeah, so I actually commuted because I'm right here in Wappingers Falls, so I commuted, but there, which was good. But there was that, and there's a whole group of people that travel around the country and do that at seasonal places, which is super cool. They have like a little trailer community in the back, and I love that. They were really great people.
Does that still happen the same? There was people who would go from like ashram to like retreat place to retreat place and just like work different seasons. Do you think that still happens like it used to?
Yeah.
Wow.
I do. I think there's people that just, in the summer they come here and they meet they've been there for years.
Yeah.
And then they go to another place where it's warmer in the winter here, come back. So it's kind of a sort of a cool thing for them, I guess. It's fun. I met a lot of great people.
All right. So you let go of the center and went and baked at Omega that was before the pandemic, or that was before the pandemic, right?
It was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what were you doing after that? Where were you when everything got really weird?
So my youngest brother passed away accidentally in 2019, January. So I moved down to New Jersey at that time to be with my mom because he was living with her. And I then started teaching at a Bikram studio down there.
Okay.
And it was great. And so but then the pandemic happened in March of 2020. So, but I had been teaching for, 2019 all throughout. So I was down in New Jersey.
And was that studio, just out of curiosity, calling itself Bikram, or was it just like, because by that time people had often taken the name Bikram off of this name because of all the scandals and stuff?
Yeah, she was a Bikram studio. I taught the Bikram sequence.
Wow. She didn't care, huh? She didn't care.
There were still Bikram studios, and there still are. There's one in Danbury, Connecticut. But yeah, she didn't care. I mean,
that's an interesting thing. A lot of people have a hard time understanding that, because there were quite a bit of revelations about him, so that people still are like, yeah, I teach Bikram yoga. Do you think that's weird at all? Do you have issues with that?
I don't. I mean, I think like all of those Patabi Joyce, these guys, that's what they, that they created beautiful, great sequences, and they've influenced a lot of people. So
yeah,
I like, I don't mind it much. I just teach what I teach.
Yeah, on a practical level, when you're in class and you're having practice with people and they're benefiting from it, and you're sharing stuff with them, and the yoga's happening, and that the other stuff doesn't feel like as relevant or important, feels political sometimes, right?
Yes, I try to sort of keep away from it, but
I get it.
Yeah,
I understand. I understand. How many classes were you teaching at the Bikram Center before everything shut down?
I was only teaching, I think, 3 or 4 classes there. I was also baking at a little local bakery too. So I was doing all the things that I love to do.
Got you. All right. So pandemic happens. Do you start teaching online, or you just take a break altogether?
She kept the studio up, and she did teach online. I couldn't figure that out. I really struggled with the online thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't get myself right in my house. I was like, it felt odd to me. So I backed out of that. But we did soon open outside. So we were practicing and teaching outside on the lawn, which was lovely, and people showed up. And then she opened when she could.
All right. And when you came back, I guess I'm curious about attendance maybe, because it's interesting. I've hypothesized that the classes that are doing better since the pandemic tend to be classes that are like hot classes or other certain types of classes. Have you seen a dip in attendance, or did it kind of come back?
It came back. It came back. I think people. Well, we had to go in and we had to wear masks, which was a drag, just a drag, as you know.
Mhm.
And then we had to separate the mats, so we couldn't get as many people in the studio. We put the lines down on the floor, but we managed. I think like most studios managed. A lot of them didn't make it, but this particular studio did, and she eventually moved. But I'm now upstate again.
I see. So you moved back upstate from New Jersey.
Yeah. I was there. Yeah. So I'm back. I've been up here for since 2022. And
Okay. And what was it? What was it like there when you got back? Was there yoga centers?
Well, yeah. So the studio, this yoga world is funny. The yoga community. So nobody was teaching Hot 26 here where I was, and the person knew who she was at Baptiste, she had a Baptiste studio, and she kept her studio going. She had some teacher trainings, and I asked her, I said, why don't we see if do a Hot 26, see if people show up. So we did a class, and 50 people showed up, and then I started to teach again, and I'm still teaching now at different studios the same.
Okay. So how many studios are you at right now?
I'm at 2 studios right now. Yeah.
All right. And so tell me about the studios. Are they both primarily hot studios, or do they do lots of different stuff?
The one studio that I work at she has a lot of different things, but she's got a great hot studio. She's only 2 years old, and she's a young girl, and she's super smart and has a lot of different styles. So she does restorative, yin, warm, vinyasa. Not as many Hot 26, but we're busy. But she got very busy over the past year.
Mm.
Yes.
So the classes are like filling.
Yeah, and she could hold 40 people in the class, but she's busy. She's like the place where all people are coming at the moment. We're in Wappingers Falls again. So, and then I'm at another studio that just opened up in Beacon, which is a very cool space. It's more like a spa experience there. So it's a smaller studio. And I teach 2 classes there because I have a community that I've built over the past 20 years, and they'll just follow me. So, and there's people that location is easier for them to get to. So it's nice. And it's busy.
So, wow. What do you attribute the success of that place, the one that's doing really well, not the one in Beacon that is spa place, but the other place?
Yeah.
What do you think that's working so well? Is it like a location that there's like a lot of people walking by, or because like I remember being up there and people generally have to drive everywhere, good 15, 20 minutes to get anywhere. What do you think it is that is driving that place's success?
It's definitely not the people are walking by. I think she's just a newer studio, and Kate is about I mean, she's 32 today, actually. And so she's got a different, like, I'm older. I'm 64, so I have that group of people. And so she's got a younger vibe going on, and myself and people who have followed me, they still want to practice yoga. I think she does retreats, which is a big deal. It brings in a lot of money. She does puppy yoga, which people love. She does different weekend things, I know, but she's busy. People show up for puppy yoga. And
I mean, she's selling out the puppy yoga workshop. Power to her. I mean,
she also has like specials. We have sound people coming in with, that's a really very popular monthly thing that she does. People love that. And so I think that's the reason why.
And the place where is that located? That's in upstate New York.
It's in Wappingers Falls, and there's zero parking. It's really, you have to park.
Zero parking. See,
there's zero parking.
That's an issue, right? That's an issue, parking.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, people they prepare if they want to get to class. She does. So there's street parking, of course. They park at a VFW that's local, like walking distance. So, people get there if they want to go to class. They figure it out.
And what's the general demographic? You said she's got the younger vibe.
She does.
But did she teach it like a lot of other places before she opened her spot, or did she already have like a student base that she brought when she opened, or did it just generate because she put out a sign like we did back in the day?
She didn't actually. Kate did not. She did her. I think she did her training online, maybe over the pandemic time, and she was a hot. She would be the third or the second hot studio in the area, besides the studio down in Fishkill. And so she struggled, I think, for the first year, which was last year. I think she opened. And it takes a little bit of time, I think, to get the right teachers in, and then get the word out. And so
now,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you for a second only because that's a significant moment there to hear, because I've sort of had that in mind that like the first year you can't really expect it to do great. It's just, it needs time. But to hear that in the second year it did better is encouraging.
Yeah, I think it just takes a little time. And, she has another job. So she works full time. Yeah, she works full time. And then she does it.
So she has the center just on the side of a whole other job she does.
Yeah. And I think she's very smart. Like she probably had a business plan. And so she works. Yeah, she works a full-time job, and then she'll do 6 a.m.
that actually, we got to stop. That changes everything.
Yeah.
You see, that changes everything.
Yeah, it does.
It changes everything. If you have a whole other gig that you do to pay your way, and then you just don't have to sweat it on the yoga center side, and you can take a year or two to make it work,
Yeah.
That's different.
It was my full-time thing, when I had my studio. So I understand how you're struggling a little bit there. It's hard.
At that center that's doing well now, that has a lot of people coming because she had some resources to give it enough time, and because it seems like she's doing some things right, like people are showing up, that's telling. Are there other kinds of classes there that are not hot? Does she have slow flows and gentle classes too? Or are they all a little bit more pumped up in a younger vibe?
No,
Are you like the rep for the slow flows? Or you're doing hot classes too? You're not the older, slower
I
teacher,
do. I do a strong hot 26. I teach a strong class.
You're holding your own against all those younger ones, huh?
So they're more, they're younger girls, and we have one guy who just came back from India. He's the Jivamukti. So that's sort of coming back around there a little bit. Yeah, but
Interesting.
people love she has a restorative, a yin yin that she does well with. But I would say the answer to the question is it's not a real strong power yoga studio. Now, the studio in Fishkill is a Baptiste power strong. That's where you go to get a strong class. But where I am, and that's a bunch of people who have been practicing for years and years, sort of like in their middle ages.
And have you taken class with the woman who owns the center who trained online? Have you been in her class before?
I have taken her class, yes.
And I guess I'm not trying to get you in any trouble,
Don't worry. It's okay.
But I guess I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
Like, that's a new story.
Yeah.
Like, again, like I'm having all these people on the podcast. We're talking about when they met their guru in 1988 or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just not the same thing as somebody who trained online during the pandemic and has a whole other gig and then opened a hot center in 2022 or whatever.
No, it's not.
What's your impression of her? What was her class like? I mean, now she's teaching in person, so she's getting hands-on real experience. But
she's there. Look, they're just younger teachers, right? And they don't have as much experience as I do.
Right.
I think she's good, and people love her. And I'm there to also cause she does have another girl who teaches 26, and the 26 people, when they come to class, they expect the same experience, right? The same. I teach it very similar to this. Hot 26 is super specific. So,
well, let me ask you about that, because I know that originally the Bikram had like a script that all the teachers were supposed to say the same words. Did the person that you studied with, was that loosened up on? Did you come up with your own languaging for it, or did you follow a script? And again, I don't think there's anything wrong. I kind of have a script. Most teachers have some kind of script that they go off of eventually. But I'm curious, in the way that you were taught it, did you have like a script that you were going off of, or was there some more creative license with the wording, the languaging?
Good question. It's a great question. So Jimmy, there was a script initially, and I think there is a script, but I'm a little loose, more organic about how I teach. So it's definitely not as militant as a Bikram class. I think a Bikram studio is great. It's a great experience. I do love it. But I don't think it's for everybody. So I try to I try to be personable.
Do you let people drink water in your class?
Great question. That is so funny, because my teacher just did that. Did you hear that story about the TikTok person that happened?
Are you talking about
riff on TikTok?
Are you talking about Bradshaw? Bradshaw Wish from the other podcast? I saw he did a post about that.
He just did that today. He's funny. So I let people, I say, we try not to have water until after eagle pose. And when I took it was a Ashtanga practitioner, we weren't really allowed to have water at all at the time.
Yeah, nobody had water bottles next to their mat in the Ashtanga Mysore room.
Right.
That's for sure.
Well, it's funny because my teacher Jimmy Barkin did a post on this recently about how that came about, and it was because back in the day they didn't have water bottles, and so Bikram would just say, "Oh, go outside." There was a water filler, like a big jug of water, and people would stop there and go out and fill their cups with water. So I think there's a story behind that sort of got morphed along the way, But we do have specific water breaks. I also do believe that oftentimes in a hot class, because of the conditions in the room, people get anxious, and so they drink water, and that's right. So I try to just have people just stay present as they can.
Oh, so that's interesting. That does make, I get that. There's like if the practice ritual is asking you to kind of sustain a focus and attention,
Right.
and then like you're using the opportunity to go get it, or like you're going to get a drink. If you are hearing this message, then you're listening to the free version of J. Brown Yoga Talks. To hear the rest of our conversation, please subscribe to Podcast Premium at jbrownyoga.com/premium.